Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. We're actually, say again?
Sit down in the chair. Sit.
Why?
Sit.
That's it. You just hold it down for me.
Oh. Oh, I got it.
That's the reason you were sitting in.
All right. So, thank you all for coming and being here this morning. I did this last time I taught. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take the opportunity as the children's deacon to implore and encourage you to come to VBS. Whether you come as a volunteer or as someone wrangling, kids, or if you're going to come to the adult class, either one. Landon's going to be doing the adult class. If you didn't hear about it in first service, you'll hear about it in the second service. So do that. Some other things going on. We have an ice cream social coming up on July 28th. There's a blood drive. There's lots of fun stuff, right? Blood drive. See? That was perfect timing, too. You just walked in as I said that. That was great. Check this out. Also, can we go ahead and open in prayer before we get started in class? All right. Heavenly Father, God, we thank you for today. We thank you for everything that you do for us, God. God, we're thankful for Jesus. God, we're thankful that he has made us brothers and sisters, and we're thankful for the Spirit that you have sent to us, God. I pray that you be with me this morning as I share some from your word. I pray that we could have some good discussion this morning, and I pray all this in your Son's name. Amen. All right. Let's see if this works. There it goes. All right. So, continuing on with Jesus' miracles, we are going to be looking at healing that Jesus does in Mark. So, if y'all will turn to Mark chapter 7, that's where our miracle that we're going to be looking at this morning is from. And I can go ahead and read this. Then Jesus left the vicinity of Tyre and went through Sidon, down to the Sea of Galilee, and into the region of the Decapolis. There some people brought to him a man who was deaf and could hardly talk, and they begged Jesus to place his hand on him. After he took him aside, away from the crowd, Jesus put his fingers into the man's ears, then he spit and touched the man's tongue. He looked up to heaven and with a deep sigh said to him, Ephphatha, which means be opened. At this the man's ears were opened, his tongue was loosened, and he began to speak plainly. Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone. But the more he did so, the more they kept talking about it. People were overwhelmed with amazement. He has done everything well, they said. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak. We remember this one, right? Pretty common story here. I'll be honest, sometimes I get them mixed up with some of the other healings. I was even talking to Kara last night. I was like, yeah, was it blind? No. Was it blind? No. I couldn't remember because, there's lots of healings that Jesus does, but I couldn't remember exactly, even after preparing for this, which one this was. But before we dive in, as with so many things in the Bible, especially in the New Testament, there's actually a callback. So let's go back to Isaiah 35, because we're going to see that this has a clear reference for what Jesus is doing here. We're actually going to be able to read the whole chapter. It's a pretty short chapter. So this is something that, like I said, this miracle is calling back to this. So this is Isaiah 35. Just 10 verses. The desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it will burst into bloom. It will rejoice greatly and shout for joy. The glory of Lebanon will be given to it, the splendor of Carmel and Sharon. They will see the glory of the Lord, the splendor of our God. Strengthen the feeble hands, steady the knees that give way. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear. Your God will come. He will come with vengeance, with divine retribution. He will come to save you. He will come to save you. Then will the eyes of the blind be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then will the lame leap like a deer, and the mute tongue shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness, and streams in the desert. The burning sand will become a pool, the thirsty ground bubbling springs, and the haunts where jackals once lay. Grass and reed and papyrus will grow, and a highway will be there. It will be called the way of holiness. It will be for those who walk on that way. The unclean will not journey on it. Wicked fools will not go about on it. No lion will be there, nor any ravenous beast. They will not be found there, but only the redeemed will walk there. And those the Lord has rescued will return. They will enter Zion with singing. Everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. Hopefully y'all picked up on that specific part right there in terms of the mute shouting for joy and the one who had closed ears. Something interesting, this is a little translation language thing here. Can someone tell me what was the Old Testament mostly written in? The language. It was Hebrew, right? But for the most part, the people of the first century had a Greek translation of it, which was called the Septuagint. One of the words, the word that is used when of the person who couldn't speak, it's the same word that's used for the one who can't speak. It's the mute tongue. It's like there's other ways that word that people who couldn't speak were referred to, but like Mark is specifically calling back to that one right here when he's saying this. So, and the other thing about this is, like all of these things here about this way of holiness, this is the way that's going to be making straight. Like, what Jesus is doing here is he's not just a healer, right? He's bringing about the redemption of Israel. He's bringing about the healing. He's setting things straight. So, there were, others who were, like wanted to heal and things like that, but Jesus was more than that. And so that's what some of these, this was talking about. All right, so y'all can turn back to Mark now. Again, that was Mark 7.
Jesus is fulfilling part of that prophecy, but it's also, in a sense, those who are in the kingdom will be made well.
Those in the kingdom will be made
Jesus
well.
Returns.
Yes.
Yeah, in all his glory.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but this is a foretaste of what's to come.
Yes. Yes. He's the one. I mean, absolutely. He's the foretaste. So where does this happen? I kept this slide from the last time I taught because I guess I'm teaching in the Decapolis. That's all the miracles that I'm covering. They're all in the Decapolis. So if you can see right here, most of those cities, all the cities that are in black here, black text, those are Greek-speaking cities. Those are Gentile cities. The ones in red, well, actually, not even just the black ones. The black ones are the Decapolis, though. So Capernaum, Nazareth, Joppa, Jerusalem, those were Jewish Israelite cities. The Decapolis was predominantly Gentile. So even though Jesus was sent to the lost sheep of Israel, he still spent a good amount of time in Gentile area right here. So we don't know much about the man who was healed, but it's possible that this was a Gentile man as well. We don't know for sure. Also, in verse 31, let's see, verse 31 of Mark. This is, sorry. Oh, sorry, I was in the wrong place. Mark 7:31. So left the vicinity of Tyre and went through Sidon down to the Sea of Galilee into the region of the Decapolis. Tyre is over there right on the coastline. So then it goes all the way down to this, like on the opposite side of the Sea of Galilee. This is a pretty long little trek right here. Talking 60, 70 miles. And you can't go straight because there's a, sea between you and there too. So I've never been there, but this rough terrain, and they probably just went by foot. So, and Jesus is never just going by himself either. He's always got a group of people following him. So you can just picture this group coming through. So that's sort of setting some of these up. All right, I'm going to split y'all up for some discussion time, and we're going to dig into this, all right? So just help me reflect through this. Here's some questions I want us to talk about. What do you think the people who brought this man to Jesus wanted to happen? What was their desired outcome? That sounds like an easy question, I know. But let's think about it. Why do you think Jesus takes the man aside privately? Why doesn't he just do the healing right there? Why does he take him away over to the side privately? What was Jesus doing? Putting his fingers in his ears and the whole touching his tongue. That's pretty weird, right? Why does Jesus look up to heaven? Okay? I'll set a timer, as I usually do, and then let's talk about that, all right? And y'all can go ahead and start. All right. Have y'all figured all of the things out? Hopefully so. What do you think the people who brought this man to Jesus wanted to happen? Healed. Anything else? Say again?
Maybe see what Jesus could do.
Maybe see what Jesus could do. I mentioned this was in the Gentile territory. I mean, word has gotten around outside of even, Israel, the Judean areas here. Like, we've heard about this guy. We know that some of the Gentiles had heard about him. So maybe. I mean, that's assuming that it is a Gentile crowd. Yes, sir.
We know in our group that 3 chapters earlier, chapter 5, Jesus went to Decapolis and healed the demon-possessed man.
Yes.
And that's when the pigs were thrown ran into the sea, but the demons were put into the pigs.
Mm-hmm.
And that demon-possessed man asked Jesus, "Can I come and be with you?" And Jesus said, "No, go back to Decapolis
Yes.
and tell the people all that I've done for you." So now that's news has spread.
Right.
And throughout Decapolis, what Jesus did. Now he's back there again, and now they say, let's bring the deaf man to come be healed.
Maybe so, yes. So Joe's group mentioned just back in chapter 5, that's what we were talking about a few weeks back, was when Jesus healed the demon-possessed man, and that whole scene with the pigs running off, they were in the same area here. So then he goes back. Like, the man wants to come with Jesus. Jesus says, no, go back and tell everyone what God has done for you. I mean, maybe this is some of the fruit of that, perhaps. They come back. I like that a lot. That's absolutely possible. They did have some expectations for something, right? They didn't just come like, hey, would you come say hi to this guy? But we don't know. There's a lot of things there. Surely there was some hope for something positive to happen from this. Why do you think Jesus takes the man aside privately?
Mark got a good answer.
All right, Mark, what you got? Voluntold, right.
Well, it's still embracing. He doesn't want to make a spectacle
Doesn't want to make a spectacle, yeah.
of what's going on. And still, like the memory of what had been spread through the area by the man that had been demon-possessed.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to have the same thing happen because even though this is a Gentile area, well, Greek-speaking,
You're right.
non-Jewish, you still have the Jewish synagogues in and around. And the leaders of those synagogues were still, they were irritated with what's been going on and keeping that and then using as privately putting the fingers in the ears and looking to God. He's letting the inner circle know who the power comes from, not just through him.
Okay. Interesting. So, doesn't want to draw a lot of attention from the synagogues in the area, even if he's in Gentile territory.
Correct, because it was spread throughout.
Yeah. Something that, yes, sir. Yeah.
I'm having a problem hearing too. I couldn't hear his answer too well.
The answer was, like, one of the things, Jesus doesn't do a whole lot of drawing attention to himself, and if I understood correctly, it's like not to draw, like, some of the negative things that happen from whenever he cast Legion out, where it's just like everyone's afraid, but there's still the Jewish synagogues there, so it's just like, doesn't want to draw attention there. He does it privately, perhaps, again, if I understood correctly, so that, like, It's for his disciples and his followers to see. It's not for a spectacle. Is that it?
Yeah, it was kind of a multi-purpose reason
Yeah.
he did that.
Yeah. Did I see another hand over here too? Something that happens in Mark over and over and over. What does Jesus tell the people not to do? Don't tell. Over and over. That is just a common refrain from Jesus in Mark. Don't tell people, which is surprising. Especially, it's like he's come to seek and to save the lost. It's like he's coming to tell people about the good news of the kingdom. He's coming to do all these things, and it's like, but don't tell anyone. I mean, I've wondered before if this was like a reverse psychology thing. It's like, okay, kids, don't go over there, and then but I mean, I'm sure he knows that they're still going to. Yes, sir. Yeah.
I think he did that because he didn't want to just think that's all he's going to do. He just come to bring people to heal.
Yeah.
He's coming to tell them about something new that's happening.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
He's not just yes.
That away, that yes, I can heal and I can do miracles, but and I am from God, but I think he's trying to do that to say this is not why I came.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe so. Maybe so. Like he's not just coming as this because, like, we know when he feeds people, they all come. And maybe they're coming for some of the wrong reasons. So that's possible for sure.
He's also fulfilling prophecy.
He's fulfilling
By
prophecy.
not drawing attention to himself.
Yes.
Isaiah
Yes.
52,
Yes. Yes.
3, 4.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That is part of what he's doing. I think that he doesn't fit a lot of our expectations for what someone who's coming. I mean, the sermon is on King of Kings because our VBS topic is that. And Jesus doesn't fit some of the pictures that we have for kings. He doesn't fit the pictures for someone who, like, it's almost like he draws crowds. He doesn't draw crowds by saying, hey, everybody, spread the news. He's able to draw crowds when he tells them not to do those things. Like, people come anyway. I just find that really interesting.
Yeah, but do you know how much was spread because of these people went and told? And it was from people that were actually healed by him, that were given eyewitness testimonies, and who better to spread the word? Jesus knows when he tells them don't go tell people. He knows everything. I mean, he knows they're going to go tell people. So, he knows they're going to go tell them anyway. He tries to tell them, slow it down so it doesn't snowball because his time hasn't come yet.
Yeah.
But he's letting people go spread his gospel that don't even know they're really doing it, and it's hitting so many more people than he could hit.
Maybe so.
He's always in control.
Yes.
He's in control of everything.
Yeah.
He knows what's going on.
That's
And he's playing the puzzle pieces. He just knows what we're going to do.
yeah.
I don't know. I think he does it and tries to keep it from snowballing, but he knows what better way to spread who I am than somebody that I've actually stuck my fingers in his ear, spit, and touched his tongue.
Yeah.
What better testimony can we have about something than that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's something to that because it's like, if people were following him all the way back, they're not going to be able to go back home to share what Jesus has done for them. Danny?
Well, and how can they not tell?
How can they not tell? Yeah.
A few chapters earlier, these people see this crazy man in his right mind. They're going to ask questions. Same thing with this man. They've known him since he was in diapers. They know he can't speak, he can't hear. He's not going to have to tell people. They're going to ask, what's he say? Well, I don't really know, but it's going to be more, it's not going to take effort for him because everybody's going to be curious what happened. And maybe that's the way it should be with us. Sometimes we don't always tell, but when people see something different than us, hopefully they'll wonder, like, why is this person different? Why does this person show or act out?
Right.
Because it's more. Like he is, if you can't not tell, but again, I think there'll be more.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Something different.
What do you think Jesus is doing by putting his fingers in his ears and touching his tongue? Did anyone have any revelatory insights there?
I think with it putting his fingers in his ear, like you and I are someplace that's loud, we put our fingers in our ears to be quiet. So that when he says what he does, removes his fingers, now you're going to
Not going to be too shocked by this sudden sense. Yeah, maybe.
That's kind of what I get from it, is he's doing that to symbolize that he was quiting, putting, fingers in ears, and he removes them, you're going to be able to hear.
So, something that you said I like, in the notes that Greg gave me, the thing that I like about this, what you said is, it's putting yourself in the shoes of the person there who's being healed and not necessarily as a bystander. If you could not speak or hear, how do you have to communicate? Through your hands. I mean, I don't even know, did this man know what they were trying to do? Has he heard stories about the healer? He couldn't have. I mean, they didn't have sign language necessarily. I'm sure they had some way of communicating, but there wasn't, American Sign Language. And so, does he know who Jesus is? We don't know. I mean, maybe there's a way that they can communicate some of this, but so if you put yourself in his shoes, so you're there, and you've got people taking care of you, feeding you, whatever, and you can get around, but you don't know what's happening. And here, you've got your friends, they take you to this man. There's crowds around him, you don't know. And what he does is he comes directly and touches the things that he's about to heal. It reminds me of what Jesus does with the people who have leprosy. How does he heal them? Does he just speak a word? He goes and touches them, right? He's going right to the source in that case. Yes?
It's like actions are louder than words.
Actions are louder than words? Okay. Yeah.
And a physical reaction to the man
Yes.
was
Mm-hmm.
touching him, because he couldn't hear, he couldn't see.
Right. Right.
So did he even know why he was there?
I don't know. I mean,
He didn't know, unless, I guess he could have been there on the big grin off the cliff or something like that. And, it's the other people that bring him.
yes. There may be something there too. Again, this is speculation. We don't know. But I think it helps us to put ourselves in their shoes. It helps us to see some of the humanity of Jesus here and how he cares for them. Maybe that's also, like you said, taking him away privately. Like, let's get you away from the crowds here. This isn't about a spectacle for you. This is not. He doesn't want him to be overwhelmed afterwards either. He's in control of how he shares it afterwards. Yes, Billy.
It shows also the amount of faith this person had in Jesus.
Yes.
You ask the question, it's going to go to the man to the side, it's going to be private. Now, the man had a great deal of faith. I'm going to do certain things right here, and other things too. Just let me do this, and then, because if I went to the doctor and I couldn't speak, he said, but I'm going to spill my finger and put it in your mouth. Wait a minute.
I don't want that. Right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Is it man's faith, or is it the faith of those that brought to the point earlier?
I don't know. And I would say at least their faith. In terms of the man's faith, I don't know how much he's even aware of what's going on yet. Potentially. But that's fair. Why does Jesus... Yes, sorry.
He didn't set up a tent.
Mm-hmm.
When Neil Diamond song about the roadshow, traveling roadshow, the man set up a tent, the whole crowd came, they brought the kids, they had picnics and all that. And that's what as humans we're looking for is people are going to go where they think they got a chance of getting something.
Mm-hmm.
And these people that they could have had great faith, or they could have been severely tested. I've heard this, is he just a faith?
Right.
And he didn't put up a tent because he would not want to focus on the healing so much as the story.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to get some of this around, he had the compassion side, But there was a practical side, I think, of some things needed to be done to spread the word. And he knew that we're not going to just listen. We've got to see it for ourselves. And if we hear something that's happened, such as this story, then we're going to go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was done. And again, don't tell anybody because you know they're going to go tell. But it also doesn't give him the aura of saying, I've done this to you, you go tell everybody that I did it. It's that quiet confidence of knowing that it will happen and of what his true mission is.
Yeah, he doesn't set up a tent. It's not a spectacle still. Word is going to get out, but it's going to be in a different fashion, I think. I think related to this, yes, sir.
Got a little bit of twist on the spitting and touching his tongue.
Okay.
It doesn't say that he spit on his finger and touched his tongue, at least in my version it doesn't. But if you've known anybody, and I grew up around somebody who was very hard of hearing and was mute, it's very difficult for them to spit.
Oh, okay.
And that made them demonstrating when he spit and then touched his tongue, you're going to be able to do this now.
Maybe.
The ones I've been around,
Showing.
it was difficult because of how the tongue is very difficult for them to spit.
Right. Maybe so. Yeah. You're right. My version doesn't say specifically. It just says he spit and touched the man's tongue. So it could be like I'm showing you. You know, he's trying to help him see. Why does Jesus look up to heaven? This was another question which I think there's more to it than this, because it's like, well, okay. I mean, he's praying, right? But is there more to it than that? I'll change the question a little bit. Do you remember, what does Jesus say about how we should pray? Are we supposed to make a big show of it? In a closet, like in a room? Are we supposed to use a lot of words? We're not supposed to, he's in Gentile territory. What he said was the Gentiles use lots of words because they think that their gods are going to hear them. What does Jesus say? He says one word. One word, he looks up, touches, and that's it. He doesn't have to use a whole lot of words here. This was, I think, instead of bowing, he just looks to the source there, right? And one of the notes Greg gave me, this could have just been a little silent prayer, but it's this is not how people prayed. Even the people, the Jews, like the Pharisees, would try to make a big show. They were praying on the streets to try to be seen. Jesus takes this man away from everyone else, does a super simple one-word prayer here, and that's it. He's living out how he tells us to pray, right? He's trying to be simple with this.
He also demonstrated by looking up that
His power is coming from above. That's right. Yes, absolutely. Anything else on that one? I have some more questions. Yes, sir. Joe.
He looked up to heaven. Jesus was always pointing to God.
He was always pointing to God. Yes.
He was always pointing to the Father, to the people. So this is another way he's doing that, I suppose.
I think so too. Always pointing to God, which, if anyone could take some pointing back to himself, it'd be Jesus, right? But he always turns and points the attention back. This question here is a little bit more complicated. And I'll try to give a little bit of comments on this. Why do you think Mark put Ephphatha, I don't know why it says of be open, instead of just saying be opened? Mark does this again, we see this a handful of times, on the cross. Jesus says, Eloi, 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 lama sabachthani, right? It's why doesn't he just say, it's already a translation here. Jesus probably spoke Aramaic. That's most likely. Jesus probably spoke some Hebrew. He almost definitely spoke some Greek. You couldn't do business in the first century world without knowing Greek. So he's got at least 3 languages under his belt. This was written in Greek. Mark specifically was no, I'm going to put the actual word that he used here instead. He doesn't just put the translation. It's like, and I mean, the Aramaic and Hebrew were like a Spanish and Portuguese. They're super similar here. And I think, I don't know, do y'all have any thoughts on why Mark would want to put this word here and then say this is what it means instead of just translate it? Like, Jesus said a whole lot of other things. He didn't put this for all of the places where Jesus, like some of the sermons, like whenever he's talking, like he just translates it into Greek for us. But here he was like, I want you to know this was the word that Jesus said here. Does my question make sense? Is it interesting, or is it sort of just like, I have some thoughts here. Yes, sir.
Well, in my Bible it says he sighed deeply
Mm-hmm.
and then spoke the word. And so, in studying it down here, it's talking about how he sighed deeply in sorrow over the man's broken condition. Just like he did when he raised Lazarus from the dead.
Yeah.
He was upset about this, so he was, according to, some
Sure.
from this Bible.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
He was just sighing and saying, what a terrible condition, and he fixed it, he was upset.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like when he was with Lazarus before he raised him.
He felt compassion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And felt bad for the condition of the man, and was like,
Yes.
let's, that's what my
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, with the sigh there. Anyone have thoughts? Yes, sir.
Maybe he wanted to emphasize that Jesus' words have power. This is exactly what he said.
Mm-hmm.
It's important, don't miss this.
Emphasize Jesus' words here, yeah. One of the things that I saw was, so Mark had to translate a lot of this, right? Most scholars think that Mark got most of his material, whether he was there or not, from Peter, which we know Peter was an eyewitness to all of this, right? So this may be the sort of thing where it's like, these were the words. This was not just a like communicating the idea. Like, Mark wanted us to know what Jesus said here. And he doesn't, he's working with a Gentile audience. This wasn't like a magician or something like that. He's not using magic words or something like that, or he's not using lots of words of prayer. He drops one simple word. Just this one word, and he sighs. Like, even notes that, like this deep sigh here. It's interesting that, Jesus is just different. He just says this simple word. And for the Gentiles who had all of these fancy words when they were doing healing, Jesus is just simple. There's not much there. What's the reaction for the people? We only have about 5 minutes left. Amazement, yeah. But they go and they immediately start telling, right? Overwhelmed, yeah. We don't have a whole lot of time, so let's jump into the last set of questions here. This is where y'all get to impart all of your wisdom to me. What does this miracle tell us? And what is Jesus communicating by means of this healing? And what does that mean for us? What is our takeaway for our faith and our own discipleship that we take from this?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is, who is Mark writing to?
Okay.
Indirectly, he's writing to us.
Indirectly, he's writing to us.
Specifically, in the first century, he was writing to people who needed to know who Jesus was.
Yes.
We kind of accept that more in Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
But to a non-Christian world in the first century, he's trying to get them to really understand who Jesus is, the Messiah, the Savior of the world. And so he brings out, like the other Gospels, quite a few miracles that shows that this wasn't just an ordinary human being. He had special spiritual power.
Right.
And he had to be the Messiah, the Savior. And my question is that Jesus did so many miracles. Why did he pick this one?
Right.
To be put in his
Right.
gospel. And maybe this was for the Decapolis people, so that if they read this letter, which I would be later, they would identify with this miracle, and hopefully they'll become Gentiles, become believers.
Yeah. So the purpose, like you said, Joe, the purpose of like Mark writing, we are indirect recipients of this, but his original purpose was to teach people who Jesus was. This was a witness to who Jesus is, and he wants them to know who he was. I wish we had more. You know, the way that we have our stories now, it's like we tell every detail. We tell what the weather was like that morning. Like, I wish we had more of that information. But they just give us a little bit. And it's like, you know, what was he doing here? Yeah, I'm with you. I wish we knew more.
This man is an outcast,
He's an outcast.
and so Jesus is concerned about every soul. Also, you know, as you mentioned, Gentile territory.
Right.
He's concerned about Jews and Gentiles. Even you can see that in his ministry. And certainly the gospel message proclaims that as well.
Yes, yes.
I take from it that he's showing him this, that he's not here to put on a show, to draw, you know, this big elaborate video and speak eloquently, use simple words, talking to the common person down in their level where they're at. And that usually spread faster
Yes.
than the other.
Yeah. Something, this may seem like a weird connection. I remember reading, this was talking about the prophets like Elijah and Elisha. We remember, maybe I should say, I remember Elijah more than I do Elisha, because he's got the big miracles. He's doing these amazing things. And then Elisha's over here like, you know, floating axe head. And it's like, it doesn't feel like they're quite as big. He has a handful of them. But I heard someone say one time that Elisha is actually a lot more like Jesus. Jesus wasn't, I mean, was he before Pilate and before Herod? I mean, he was, but not nearly as much as he was with just normal people. And yes, Danny.
One of the things that I always find intriguing about Elijah, sometimes it's hard to remember which one are, but to me, Elisha asked to do twice as much as what Elijah did. He accomplished that. I think that's one thing we forget. Sometimes we have heroes, and do we ask to do twice as much as our mentor? You know, and as one says, twice as many miracles as Elijah did. And Elijah's the one that stands out when someone's behind the scene can be doing as much or more.
Yeah.
They don't have to be noticed.
Right. Okay. Well, that's time. Thank you all for your participation, bearing with me.